There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit ComicShopLocator.com to find a store near you.
What's up, the internet? It's Kyle. That's Dan. I couldn't remember which hand to use. Because new camera array, so things are in different positions. Couldn't remember which hand to use. This is In Stores This Week, where we talk about books that are in stores this week. And sometimes other stuff. Most of the time, other stuff.
It's kind of an on-the-nose title, isn't it?
Well, we've been saying we should change the name now for a year. And so far we've come up with, we should change the name. Maybe we should, there's a new podcast out there. It's a rewatch podcast of the show New Girl.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hosted by Zooey Deschanel, Hannah Simone, and Lamorne Morris, who are on the show. And it's called Welcome to Our Show. And it's a play on every time somebody would come to visit the apartment where they lived in the show, Zoe's character would say, "Welcome to our home." But the joke they make is they called it Welcome to Our Show because they couldn't come up with a name for the show. So maybe we should go to something like that. Like Kyle and Dan. And that's just the title.
Yeah. The Dan and Kyle show. Kyle and Dan show.
No, we don't even need the word show, just Kyle and Dan. Existing.
We used to be the Nick show.
Now with Kyle and Dan, now with 100% less Nick.
There you go. Jeff says, hello, fellas.
Hello, Jeff. And if you're going to hit the thumbs up button, make sure you do it on Facebook as well as YouTube. Like, I know there's a lot of people who just watch us on YouTube, but go over, like us on Facebook, and hit the thumbs up on Facebook, too. Like, it gets glossed over sometimes on this brand that, you know, we're trying to grow 5 platforms all at once. So if people could like us everywhere, that would help us a lot.
I'd just like to be liked anywhere.
I'd like you to like me. It's a very different song.
Mm.
I mean, not entirely different messaging, but still.
True.
So, Dan, I announced something on the Rex and Robbie show last night because John wasn't there, so he gets no credit. That may be of interest because you and I sometimes talk about the sports ball on this show.
Do you mean that Aaron Rodgers is staying in Green Bay, or that
Russell Wilson is going to Denver?
Yeah.
Well, both of those things are true, but no. It will be available starting Sunday evening. The EXP Sports Ball Bracket Challenge. We are going to have a bragging right. There's no prize. It's just a bragging rights bracket challenge for the NCAA tournament, where you can pick which teams you think are going to win in the bracket, and then if you get the most points at the end, you will be the sports balliest of sports ballers on the experience.
I used to write sports when we tried to do it over at Bleeding Cool for a while. I know football inside and out. I know baseball pretty well. I know some of the NBA, a little bit of hockey. I can usually talk about any sport. Men's NCAA, basketball, I've done the bracket before, and it's literally just guessing.
Well, a few years ago, my business partner won when I had my store, the sports ball bracket challenge we did, literally by mascots and colors.
Why
Like,
call it sports ball? Why not just call it basketball?
because we would do a sports ball football challenge too,
Oh,
a fantasy sports ball challenge in the fall.
yeah.
Like, so we did it because it gave us one branding.
Okay.
But no, she won. That was the year that Loyola made a deep run, and she kept picking them. She picked them because they had the little doggy on their mascot. And every time they were like a 16 seed or something, and she got 16 points every time they won, and she blew everybody out of the water. So
Nice.
that's what'll be fun about it, is that it's literally, you can use whatever qualifications you want, school colors, states you've been to Comic-Cons at, whatever. So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
If for no other reason, then it'll be stupid. So should we start with books?
Oh, I don't know why.
Yeah. This week is a weird week, y'all. And I say that like, I feel like I say this week is a weird week for comics about every week now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there is no normal week for comics anymore.
That's true.
Between shipping delays and publisher shenanigans and distributor shenanigans and 65 variant covers for certain books. Every week is a weird week for comics. But this week, it felt like there was a lot of weight at the top end of comics, in terms of new number ones at Marvel and DC and Image, and a lot of kind of lightweight at the bottom end. So not a lot of stuff from small press publishers, who are usually the folks we get our stuff from.
Yeah.
So, let's start here with Draculina number 2 from Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
I've said it before. I'll say it again. Christopher Priest gets a lot of credit from me. A ton of credit for being Christopher Priest. I mean, this is the guy who discovered Joe Quesada. I'm probably not going to read Draculina anymore.
Yeah, you're tapping out, huh?
It ain't for me. It might be one of those things that if I could get my hands on the trade and read it in one shot and know where everything was going at the end, I would do that.
Yeah.
But in lieu of that, it ain't for me. Everything that Vampirella does great that I love, this book seems to be trying to replicate to a less good quality. And that's not to say it's bad, because it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like this is Wish.com Vampirella. Or you get it from Ollie's Bargain Outlet. Vampirella. It's good, but it ain't Vampirella.
See, I see it as being kind of a take on the old setup that Captain Marvel had with Rick Jones, where one had to be off in whatever weird purgatory thing it was when the other was on Earth. Except here, it's not so much them sharing as forcing.
Yeah.
One is fighting to come out. It's a little bit Jekyll and Hyde, where you have a alternate version of yourself that comes and takes over every once in a while. So I'm going to stick around a little longer. Yeah, I just want to see where Priest is going with this. It feels like we're still in the setup phase.
Yeah, I mean, and if the thing is, if we keep getting the PDFs for this show, I'll keep reading it.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for this, I would walk on this book, and then when the trade came out, I'd pick it up and give it another chance. But I think my big problem is that I feel like I'm getting whatever I'm getting too slowly. And and that's what makes me dissatisfied with it.
Yeah.
If I was getting it, if I was getting my whole story in one big chunk that I can grab and run with, that would be a little more satisfactory for me.
Like I said, I'm going to stick around because I'm kind of curious where it's going. It's entertaining enough for me right now. I think I agree that it'll probably be better in one big chunk, but a lot of comics are.
Sure. Like I said, right. I mean, my thing is that I can look past the feeling like it's, discount Vampirella if I can go from the beginning to the end in one swoop.
Yeah.
Because then it's, it's not it feels that way, but it's not that because of this that happens in what would be issue 4.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the same problem I was having with a couple of other Dynamite books that have been coming out in Panther and Sheena, whereas like this is just developing too slowly. And we have another book later on in the show that, okay, we're finally getting somewhere now, and we're 4 issues in. So,
yeah,
we'll see. Speaking of books that start off knowing where they're going and just get there.
Mm-hmm. I was surprised this one carried over from last one.
They normally don't.
We were done. I thought, hey, yeah, we got to the end of that story. No, there was more.
Right. Normally these books don't. They're normally, one shots with an overarching theme, as opposed to multiple issues with the same story.
This one, we went from finishing up the Thor story as he's going out to get a big kettle to brew some beer. And then we switch into a story about Balder the Brave. Who
also a fan of beer.
Yeah. Yes. But, it's, and Loki and stuff like that. It's an interesting take on the Balder the Brave story, which I think is interesting that they brought it out because there's been rumors of Balder the Brave popping up in MCU. So it's interesting that they've got it popping up here, It's almost like, hey, Neil, can you put the story out there so people might know it a little better?
Right. And this is what's great about Norse mythology from Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology and Dark Horse, right? Like Dan and I read it. We both knew everything, right? We know Thor's mythology. We know Balder the Brave's mythology. We know a lot of Loki mythology. Mm-hmm. It's all great. Dark Horse doesn't even bother writing solicitation for this stuff anymore.
No.
It's Neil Gaiman, Norse mythology. What do you want us to tell you?
Like Neil Gaiman, P. Craig Russell.
Right.
Let's not forget P. Craig Russell, who's just gorgeous, does gorgeous art. Right.
They're going, do we really need to sell you on this? Really?
Yeah.
It's I love this series. Like the first issue, I was like, eh. But then I remembered what I love about it, like reading this one when they got into the Boulder stuff, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Just a second, Dan. I had a pop-up on my computer as I have a new operating system to download tonight. And my computer won't let me click it on until I type in my password. Okay. Lunar Room number 3.
I'm mixed on this one. And I'm mixed only because I love the art. I don't know the name of the art. Is it Sposito?
It's Georgia Sposito.
Yeah. Someone's going to steal her.
Yes.
She's going to end up on a Marvel book or a DC book. Like Nightwing. Just look at that cover. She's going to be on a book soon. A Marvel or DC book soon. The story was interesting to me. But we're coming in on issue 3. And I'm confused.
Yes.
And I don't have the previous 2 issues. Vault is kind of sporadic when they release stuff. So when we get a Vault book, I try to pick books from everybody. I try to make it, so we cover a little bit of all the different publishers that send us stuff. This is what Vault sent us. Now, so again, from an issue 3 standpoint, I'm interested and I want to know more about it, but I don't have the previous 2 issues.
Right. And something that's worth pointing out, and I'm just going to bring it up, International Women's Day. This is a female-led comic written by Danny Lore, art by George Esposito. All female team on this book. It feels from the art style and writing like it's a sci-fi book, but I have no context in which to solidify that sci-fi vibe. What's the book we've been reading that's the Bendis book?
Project Joy? Something Joy? Operation
Joy Operation.
Joy Operation.
This feels like that, except we're jumping in with no details at all.
Yeah. I would actually recommend this book if you go to your comic shop tomorrow and you can find issues 1, 2, and 3. This is probably going to be a good read.
Right. It feels super interesting. Like in the bit we read was super interesting.
Yeah.
But without the backstory to framework everything, it gets a little guessy for my taste.
Yeah, but again, that's the limitation of only having the 3rd issue.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
itself. So if you can pick up all 3, I would definitely go for it.
All right. Betty Page, The Alien Agenda #1. There is an absolutely gorgeous cosplay cover of this. Just throwing it out there. But this is the one that's written by Annie Mia.
Who is the cosplay cover.
Yes. Who is the cosplayer on the cover. With art by Sealor.
Yes, Sealor.
This is good. It is not the Betty Page you're used to if you've been reading the previous Betty Page stories. In that, and it's not a bad thing. Who was writing the previous ones? I'm going to blank on his name.
Stephen Mooney.
Yeah, the books Mooney wrote, it was very much Betty Page as Mata Hari or James Bond or that kind of concept. This is similar but different. And it's just because it's a different writer with a different voice telling a story. So I don't dislike it. It just feels like a departure for me from the direction they were heading with Betty Page.
I actually like this a little better. It felt like they were taking more time to really set things up. They were giving us new characters, an archaeologist, a cipher, a language person. And it was really well written. You know, there's a lot of build up to it, a lot of backstory that needs to be laid out. And she definitely did her research on it. And yeah, I mean, the other Betty Page books didn't really get my attention that much. This one does.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I mean, I don't disagree with you on that. Like I said, it felt like a quick left turn, which isn't a bad thing. It's good. I enjoyed the book. It just, you're heading one track and boom. And I'm excited to see where she takes it.
Yeah.
So, all right. This was a book I was super excited for until I remembered we hadn't read the first volume. This is Killlock, the Artisan Wraith #1 from IDW. This is the second volume of the Killlock series.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes more sense now.
Yeah, because you jump into this book in the middle of a conversation, which, going back and looking at the previous Killlock stuff, you're in a much better situation if you had read it. Like, it doesn't end with the conversation you start this volume with, but it gives you all the bits you need to know. But this is a world where there are giant mechs.
Yeah.
That do stuff, and The thing about the mechs is that they're not entirely. They're semi-sentient. There are people involved with them, but even the mechs themselves have some neuro pathways that give them a little bit of their own autonomy. So there's a level of this that gets a little convoluted and all over the place. Does that make sense? Did you feel that way, Dan?
Yeah, I think that's a good description of it. It kind of the story kind of works whether it's robots or not, or
Mm-hmm.
It almost felt like a samurai type story to me.
Yeah.
And you got the one little guy that has memory issues and is a good warrior, but and they have abilities and stuff. So it's an interesting setup, but I don't know if it grabbed me enough. Maybe having read the previous one, it would have been more sense. But it doesn't feel like a number one to me. There's a certain expectation when you pick up the first issue of a book that you give the reader a certain amount to go in with, and I don't feel that there was enough.
I've got a weird feeling about this book that this is, we talked about it with movies or TV shows or something where you have to start in the middle and then go back.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of what this is going to do. Is it's starting you at point B.
Mm-hmm.
It will remind you what happened in the previous volume and get you to point A, and then you'll relive this from another point of view later on.
Yeah, could be. Absolutely could be.
So, but this is one of the most highly anticipated books this week. So make sure you check it out. All right. Next up is a book that I've been struggling with until this issue. This is Dot Self number 5.
Mm-hmm.
I have been kind of feeling about this book the way I felt about Joy Operation that we talked about before, and some other things, like it needs to get into gear and get moving.
Yeah.
Issue 5 of Dot Self finds a gear. And I'm not sure that it's done it entirely fast enough, because I don't know that there are any more of this series coming.
No, I think it would make sense that this was the end.
Right. It kind of pays off everything that it's led up to.
Yeah.
But it kind of also feels like this is the end of volume 1 and volume 2 is coming.
Maybe.
Yeah, if it doesn't, I think it ends in a satisfactory way. But I think it's finally got me to a point where I'm like, okay, I want more story. Because it's starting to make sense.
Yeah. To me, it feels like, and this is the best analogy I can give, a Netflix movie. They make it quietly, they put it out, you watch it, maybe you don't, and it's done. And then you forget about it. You're entertained for the length of time, but it's like the Tomorrow War. In that there was some hype to it, but you come in, you watch it, and then afterwards you just kind of move on from it. It's not lingering.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It's like the Ryan Reynolds The Rock movie or whatever, with the Wonder Woman in it.
Yeah. Red Notice.
Yeah, you watch it for a minute and then you're done.
Mm-hmm. Though they are doing a sequel to Red Notice.
I have one question.
Yeah.
No.
That's not
question
a question.
Mark? No question mark? I'm Ron Burgundy?
It's a section. It was set up for a sequel.
It was set up for a sequel, but it doesn't mean it needs one. It's like Ocean's 37. Come on.
It was one of the highest ranked, highest watched shows on Netflix.
Yeah, but it's because it's got The Rock.
Well,
Like-
yeah. And if Rock, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot want to all come back,
It's like when you eat an entire box of Oreos.
mhm.
Doing it is enjoyable while you're doing it, but afterwards you question your life decisions.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about this movie. All right.
That's how I feel about Netflix. In most cases, I end up questioning my life decisions.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's why I no longer have Netflix.
Well, since they lost the Marvel stuff, I don't know if I'm going to hang on to it. Though they do have The Witcher. So,
Well, I still have a Netflix account, but my parents have Netflix. Like I stopped paying for it. And they're like, do you want to just put it on our account? Yeah, sure, whatever. All right, Rick and Morty, The Infinity Hour.
I like this.
Yeah, Dan, you're a Rick and Morty fan, right?
I'm not. I've never watched the show.
Why did I think you were a Rick and Morty fan?
I don't know.
I once again didn't get it. Like with every Rick and Morty ever.
I may have to start watching the show, but I actually kind of like this. It's sardonic. It's sarcastic. It's kind of an origin story for Rick, or a version of Rick, because there are multiple Ricks. The Council of Ricks.
Yeah.
And it just was kind of odd,
Every time I engage with Rick and Morty, I feel like I'm not on enough acid to fully understand what they're trying to do.
Maybe that's the problem.
Clearly, that's the problem. But I will say this. It's a super fun read.
Mhm.
Even if you don't know what the hell is happening. It definitely reflects, if you're a Harmon fan, if you watched Community, if you watch Harmontown, what is his RPG show? Harmon Quest.
I'm not a Harmon fan either. I have never watched Community.
Right. If you're a fan of Dan Harmon, it certainly feels like something Dan Harmon would have had his hands in, even though he didn't.
Mhm.
So, it's got its thing. It didn't for me, but it's got its thing. So, Dan, we have 3 books left, and we've only been at this a half an hour.
So, Russell Wilson to the Broncos. What do you think that's going to do?
I don't know. But I also saw an article that Kanye and Antonio Brown were trying to buy the Broncos.
I take any conversation or any news report that involves the word Kanye with a big grain of salt.
Well, if it hadn't said Kanye and Antonio Brown, like in my brain, it was Kanye and Antonio Brown are releasing an album together. Okay, that makes sense. And then I click on it, and they're trying to buy the Broncos. And the first comment was, imagine what the uniforms will look like.
Oh, my God.
I went, all right. I'm not in.
Denier Broncos. I like that. Denier Broncos.
Kinda, yeah.
Yep.
No, so Dan, tomorrow on the Dan Wickline Show,
Yes.
you're going to talk about the second half of season 1 of
Pennyworth. Yeah.
I almost said Pennywise, but I knew it was wrong, and so I stopped talking.
Yeah. I happened on Pennyworth one night when I was went over to HBO Max. I was actually looking to watch some old Batman cartoons. I was just in a mood for, like the old Batman animated series or The Batman. And Pennyworth was on there. I'm like, oh yeah, they're moving Pennyworth from Epix over to here so that maybe people will actually watch it, because nobody watches Epix. Come on.
Right.
And I thought, I'll give it a shot. And I watched maybe the first couple episodes, got to an episode that I thought, and stepped away. It was kind of like family drama stuff. And then I came back, and from that point on, it just got weird. Stranger and stranger, and very Gotham-like in that sense. And so if you're a fan of Gotham, this is the prequel for Gotham. This is supposed to be Sean Pertwee's character as, in his 20s, except they based the character more on Michael Caine. And the comment that Michael Caine said that he was part of the SAS in the Dark Knight. And you listen to this guy, Jack Bannon, who plays Alfred, and he sounds like Michael Caine. And it's not an imitation. He's not standing there often going, Michael Caine, Michael Caine, Michael Caine, Michael, and getting the voice right. And it comes out, because I've seen interviews with him, and yeah, he's exactly that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I haven't started it yet. We had been talking about Poirot. And that's on my list next on BritBox, but I decided to watch Father Brown, and I'm flying through those.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Father Brown is essentially Sherlock Holmes, but he's a priest. The police use Father Brown to help them solve cases. And then there's a follow-up series. It's only got like 2 series of it. Sister Boniface, which is Sherlock Holmes, but it's a nun.
We had something similar when Tom Bosley played Father Dowling.
I don't know that show.
Yeah, it was Father Dowling Mysteries. He was a priest who was solving crimes and stuff. A lot of times, it's like, Murder, She Wrote was basically Agatha Christie's Miss Marple.
There's a show on BritBox that's moved down on my list called Murder, They Hope. And it's a follow-up to Dial B for something, or Dial M for something, which is a show it's the same characters in both shows, but they're 2 different murder mystery shows.
Yeah. I started watching Poirot the other night. Most of them are all available on YouTube. They're just out there. And what happened was I found an article with an interview from the guy who's the head of 20th Century Films, which used to be 20th Century Fox. And one of the things he was talking about is how Kenneth Branagh is going to come back again as Poirot. That it's not over with Death on the Nile. And that Michael Green has already written a script, but it's not going to be based on one of the bigger ones like Evil Under the Sun or the Murder of Roger Ackroyd, or it's not going to be the travelogue one. It's going to be more of the standard Poirot mystery. And the one that they said that they believe it's going to be based on is The Mysterious Affair at Styles, which is not only the first Poirot murder mystery, it's where we're introduced to him, but it's the first book Agatha Christie ever had published. So I went out to see if I could find it. I've read a lot of Agatha Christie growing up. I don't remember that one. So I thought I'd go out and see if I could find. And the Poirot series has gone through and have basically done their versions of all the major books. So, and minor stories too. So I went out and watched their version of a mysterious, the Mysterious Affair at Styles, and then kind of continued on. And I looked up, okay, what are considered the best Poirot books? ABC Murders. So I watched that one. Evil Under the Sun, Peril at End House, Murder of Roger Ackroyd. I even watched their version of Murder on the Orient Express. So it's interesting to see all of these versions done with David Suchet as Poirot. They're very interesting. But they're also done very differently. Where you look at the Kenneth Branagh one, they tend to be a little more action, a little more intense, a little more character driven. Where Poirot, the TV series, is much more him using his little gray cells.
It's true. We're doing the local community theater here is doing Murder on the Orient Express. And I couldn't audition. I wanted to audition.
Yeah.
But somebody had to be here for the Dan Wickline show. No, I'm kidding. But so wanted to be there, couldn't be there, couldn't go audition, but they're starting to build the train. And they called me going, "Hey, do you think you can come in and help us engineer this train?" And I went, "No, because someone has to be here for the Dan Wickline show." No, the times they're doing set building, I'm on the air with Nick on Fridays. So it's like, it's frustrating, but they're building a staging where they can move car to car.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a pretty stellar little set. I'm pretty amped to go see it. Some very good friends of mine are in it, and a kid that I did shows with in high school is playing Poirot. So it'll be super fun.
You could have played Poirot.
I would have loved to have played Poirot, but the guy who got it is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So
just shave the beard, little mustache wax. You could have done that.
What I would have done was go full Van Dyke.
Yeah.
I would have done a curled up mustache and here.
Yeah.
That's probably what I would have done. But I don't do a great French accent.
Well, it shouldn't be French. It should be Belgian.
I definitely don't do a Belgian accent.
The Belgian accent, it is a little bit French, but it's a little more calm. It's a little more, because you don't do it.
I would have wound up playing him as German, and he would have just been General Bullcarter from.
You will tell
Hogan's
me
Heroes.
who killed him?
Hogan! It would have just been that, or I would have played him with no accent at all.
Yeah. I found that you can get away with just going, no, mon ami. What we're going to do is, you missed the biggest clue.
I would have just improv'd a bunch of lines about waffles.
Yeah.
That's the other reason that I probably wouldn't have got it, is that I'm notorious in community theater for not learning my lines. Usually that's why they cast me. I've played Oscar Madison a couple of times, and I get the speeches and I learn most of the lines when we hit the points, but I'm always modifying. So
first part I ever played was in junior high. Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh yeah.
Courtroom scenes.
Yeah. When you've got to learn 3 pages of dialogue and you can't mess them up because people know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but people know. So people know, they know Oscar Madison, or they know, I played Nicely Johnson in Guys and Dolls. They know those characters' lines. Theater people do. And so when somebody comes out and says the line just a little bit different, it throws them off for just a second.
Yeah.
When Oscar says, let me go get you a physic to Felix, and I go, how many, what did I offer him the one night, and the woman actively guffawed. It's the pain pill that are for women who are on their cycle.
Midol?
Yeah. I go, how many Midol do you need right now? And this woman in the front will go, that's the problem with me in theater, right? People normally let me play characters where I put on a funny voice, do something funny with my beard, and then I steal scenes.
There you go.
Let's get back into comics, because that's what we're here to talk about. With Apache Delivery Service number 3.
I know we haven't missed an issue, but it felt like we missed an issue.
It really did.
Because I don't remember them being captured.
At the end of the last issue, they fell into the pit.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Right.
So this is an interesting revelation issue. We find out some things about his companion. And his companion is jacked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy's got issues. Big white long boxes full of issues. And but it doesn't feel like we really moved that much either in this issue. It's like we found out a lot, but then also kind of ran in place a little bit, like Kyle Screen is right now.
No, I just saw something pop up on social media that distracted me for a moment.
Anything good?
Apparently today there was a meeting somewhere where Mark Chiarello, Dave Johnson, Dan Panosian, Bill Sienkiewicz, and Howard Chaykin had lunch. And I was thinking what I wouldn't have given to be a fly on the wall at that lunch. And then the first comment was Joyce Chin going, "I miss all you guys." I'm going, oh man, now I really want to be a fly on the wall at that lunch because I love Joyce.
Yeah.
So, like, that's just one of those, like, you see that comment and you forget that you're friends with these legends, right? Because I'm friends with several of those guys. And then it's Dave Johnson going, the Kibitz crew. Like, I'm like, I can't believe my life that I've gotten to know these people well enough to be friends with them on social media.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, looking at the people who have liked the post going, if all of these people were to get together, it would be the single greatest Comic-Con ever created.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like the Friday Connerys for me. Or this week I posted the Monday Kane was Muppets Christmas.
Yes. The greatest Christmas Carol ever made.
And the first person to like it was Joseph Michael Linsner.
Right.
And then down the line, it's like, oh, Valentino liked it. And it's like, holy, why do I know all these people? Oh, yeah, I'm in the industry.
But also, you posted the greatest Christmas Carol ever made.
Yeah. Finding Forrester last week got the same type of reaction.
It's true. It's very true. Anyhow, so back to this book.
You're the man now, dog.
The fact of the matter is the amount of torture in this book really amplified the storyline, right? And the flashbacks that he is having, that our main character is having to his time before the military and kind of drawing the parallels is really interesting to me. So I think we're about to see, in my opinion, I think in the next issue, we're going to see the swerve.
Okay.
Right? I think at some point it's going to turn into a hero's journey story that didn't start out that way.
You're probably right. I could see that turn. Yeah, I mean, because like I said, we set this guy up and we're seeing a lot of flashbacks to his past, but it hasn't moved him much. This whole thing hasn't moved him. He's just kind of going along with the flow at this point. So at some point he's got to turn and become, the lead of the story. He has to have agency at some point. And right now he's just kind of being drug along.
Right. No, absolutely. He's going with the flow because the flow he was in when he was with the army wasn't where he wanted to be. He's going with this guy because it's an alternative, but it's becoming increasingly clear that this isn't where he wants to be. So how does he take autonomy here? So it'll be interesting to see. Speaking of characters with limited autonomy, Evil Ernie issue 4.
This was interesting.
That was a good segue.
Yeah.
I loved this book. I finally am hyped for Evil Ernie being back. Like, I really was. I've been enjoying it. Don't get me wrong, but this was the first time to me it truly felt like Evil Ernie. You get multiple demons and devils and everybody's fighting everybody. And then there's the hot chick that's just kind of in the way, but not entirely in the way. And this incredible risk of death for, and it just felt like an all out cocaine trip that Evil Ernie always feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. This book is definitely firing on the right cylinders for Evil Ernie. The previous incarnations that Dynamite has done have been decent, but they haven't quite gotten this feel. And this is what Ernie is supposed to feel like.
Yes. And with Scott Lobdell writing it, you knew it was coming, right? You knew he would get there. It just took them a little longer than I expected. This cover is awesome. It's an Arthur Soydam cover, Arthur Soydam, who will be at a convention I'm going to in just a few weeks.
Cool.
So
ask him about playing bass for Bruce Springsteen.
I don't think I will.
That's the most interesting thing he's ever. I mean, come on, he's playing bass.
I understand that, but I know Max Weinberg. Not as impressive as you thought. No, the fact of the matter is, if you ask about Springsteen at a Juggalo convention, you're likely to get jumped.
You're going to a Juggalo convention, and
I'm going to Astronomicon, which is a convention put on by the band Twisted, who is a spin-off of that ICP genre. The guests at Astronomicon are, hold on. 2 years ago, they had Kevin Eastman. So Corey Taylor from Slipknot, Judge Reinhold.
Nice.
Nick Castle, who was the original Michael Myers. Bill Moseley from House of a Thousand Corpses, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Peter Dante from The Waterboy and Little Nicky and Big Daddy. Richard Brake, who was the Night King. Jeff Daniel Phillips. Eric Stolhansky from Super Troopers. Taylor Maine, who was the original Sabretooth. But you get Kevin Nash, Sean X-Pac Waltman, who the Steiner brothers, Papa Shango, and now we're to the comics. Are you ready? Joe Rubenstein.
Okay.
Tom Cook, who did Masters of the Universe. Arthur Soydam.
I assume Renee Greerling is in there somewhere.
No.
I thought she would, with being Taylor Maine's wife.
No.
And former head of or former managing editor at Top Cow. And
I mean, that's not to say they might just not have announced her yet. But then you get Tom Cook, Joe Rubenstein, Arthur Soydam, Jason Moore, who's doing work at Dynamite right now on Elvira Meets Vincent Price. Source Point Press, Caliber Comics will be there. Dirk Manning is a special guest. Yes. And yeah, I mean, it's a weird kind of wrestling horror comic thing all combined.
It's funny that you mentioned Corey Taylor.
Yeah.
Because I am not a Slipknot fan. I am a Stone Sour fan.
Right.
I really love when he does the slower stuff, like Looking at You Through the Broken Glass song. But just the other day, like 2 days ago, I discovered he put out a singles collection that includes one of my favorite songs from when I was younger, Dark Side, On the Dark Side, from Eddie and the Cruisers. And he does such a good cover of that. He also covers Lunatic Fringe by Red Rider. And it's like, oh man, he's pulling from my old playlist, you know?
I'm going to see if he remembers me. When I was in college, I interviewed with Stone Sour. They did a contest for college students and like amateurs to design an album cover. And I designed one, and I got into they interviewed me to do the actual job, and I lost to somebody who did a much better job than I ever would have. But I just want, it's one of those things is I want to see if he remembers doing that.
Yeah.
Or if that was just one of those things the label made them do. And, he just kind of showed up.
Yeah.
So, but I'm excited to meet Judge Reinhold. I just want to be like, so how many times since Beverly Hills Cop has someone tried to put a banana in your tailpipe? Like, I just want to ask him, like, is that something that at this point has gotten annoying?
You going to wear a Phoebe Cates t-shirt?
No, but I will wear a Santa Claus suit.
I think we've hit all the Judge Reinhold jokes.
Yeah, we haven't touched on Gremlins. By the way, there are several people from Gremlins going to be there.
You ask him if tell him you love him in Taxi.
Yeah, that'll go over. All right, last book of the week.
Yes.
The last book of the series.
Yes, and damn good.
Yes, the best book of the week. I really, really enjoyed the payoff to this series. When you sent me the first one, I was like, I don't know, Dan. I don't think I'm going to like it. I was wrong.
Yeah.
I will cop to that. This series, and it doesn't seem like it has to be the end of this story.
No, but it feels like it should be.
Right. It feels like they've moved Buffy into a situation where she can take on a Giles role as a watcher.
Yep.
And let somebody else be the Slayer, which is what. Right. I'm trying not to spoil the damn book, Dan.
She's on the cover.
I understand, but you don't know that yet.
She's holding.
Yeah, I know. I know.
And casting magic.
Anyhow.
And no, that would be a spoiler.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's one of those is that this feels like it should be the end to this story, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
And so in the end, it's a super satisfying. The way Spike is dealt with is super satisfying.
Yeah.
You know, I at the end, I kind of love it. And then when there's a character that you know from the show and from previous Buffy books that shows up that hasn't been part of this book, that just puts a nice little bow on top.
Yep.
Congratulations to Casey Gilly on just absolutely planting the flag, man.
Yeah. It's a really well done series. It's a nice little send off. It is the Logan of the Buffy Vampire Slayer series.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be treated as such, as this is the end. And then if you want to do more stories, go into the future or go into the the other stuff. Don't
continue from here.
Yeah.
And if you do continue from here, do it in a number of years. Don't do it in the next hour.
Yeah.
I agree with that statement.
Mm-hmm. So. Sometimes it's nice for characters to get the happy ever after.
Yep.
And not get it ruined by when Disney bought out Star Wars and then had to kill frickin' Han Solo after having a broken up marriage.
Dan.
Luke never got his damn academy, and it was just.
Otherwise, we're going to get into what would eventually have happened to Grogu if they hadn't handled it the way they handled it in the Book of Boba Fett. We're not going to get into that.
No.
Neither of us need that on our blood pressure right now.
Yeah, no.
So, pick this book up, guys. Pick up this whole series. Otherwise, you're wrong. All right. So, head over to Comic Shop Locator. Type in this area code for where you are, zip code for where you are, and it will tell you where comic shops near to you are. Make sure you check out your local comic shop for New Comic Book Day tomorrow. Dan will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific or Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. And I will be back some other day. For Dan, I've been Kyle. This has been In Stores This Week. We'll see you later.
Auf Wiedersehen.